Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. Question below me without notice. I would like to ask this question to the Minister for State-Owned Enterprises and the leader of URP, Honorable William Duma. Mr. Speaker, my question is in relation to the Auditor General's report that was presented last year. Mr. Speaker, can the Minister for State-Owned Enterprises explain to this House what his ministry has done or is doing to address the very important concerns raised by the Auditor General in his report 2020 to Parliament on the 30th September 2021, last year, wherein he simply specifically named a number of state-owned enterprises as well as statutory bodies that have failed to submit timely financial reports to the Auditor General as is required by law, Section 214 of the Constitution, and also by the Audit Act 1989, which has since been amended in 1995. Can the Minister also inform the House of the various state enterprises which have declared and made dividend payments recently to the state through the Kumul Holdings Consolidated Holdings, have all done so in compliance with all the applicable accounting standards, and that such payments will not erode the cash flows of the state-owned enterprises concerned? We know in the past where a lot of these organizations have paid their dividends and later on they struggle. And so I'm questioning in relation to that. I'm also certain that, like me and all honorable members of the House who may be concerned, that any premature declaration and payment of dividends without proper audits may deplete the daily cash flow requirements of the state-owned enterprises concerned, and hence may also negatively hamper their operations. It may also impede the long-term viability of the respective SOEs, Mr. Speaker. Can the Minister also inform the House what steps the government is taking to address the number of state-owned enterprises that, contrary to the Constitution, have enacted their respective incorporation acts, laws which shield them from scrutiny of the Auditor General's office? These SOEs, according to the Auditor General's report 2020, include the following: Kumul Minerals Limited, National Development Bank, Octary Mines Limited, PNG Air Services Limited, and the PNG Sustainable Development Program. Can the Minister also inform the House whether the state-owned enterprises listed in the Auditor General's report 2020 have since submitted their financial statements to the Auditor General's office? The list includes the following SOEs: PNG Maritime Transport Limited, Government Printing Office, Industrial Centers Development Corporation, National Capital District Botanical Enterprises Limited, Port Moresby Nature Park Limited, National Gaming Board Control, National Board Community Development Fund Trust, Air New Guinea Limited, Air New Guinea Properties Limited, Business Travel Center Limited, and Link PNG Limited. The list goes on, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as far as I can recall, the Auditor's Report 2020 was never properly debated by this Parliament. It was presented and we left it alone. So in order to avoid Parliament from being accused for derelict duty and responsibility of its duties to the nation, I call on the Prime Minister, if he can take note, and also the Leader of Government Business, to schedule a debate on this very important report of the Auditor General's Office. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minister for State Enterprise.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I'd like to thank the Deputy Leader of the Opposition for his very important question. Mr. Speaker and fellow leaders, we have, since independence, been criticized by the Auditor General for not ensuring that all of our SOEs, including all our departments, for failing to meet minimum audit standards. It is not only the SOEs who have been on the receiving end of criticism by the Auditor Generals. Ever since we became independent, most of our departments as well as all our SOEs have always been audited and have been found wanting by the Auditor General's office. And in the case of the SOEs, we have had this instance of SOEs or companies not being able to provide full and frank disclosure of final statements, full access by the staff of the Auditor General's office to, by the staff of all the SOEs to the Auditor General's office, failing to disclose material matters. All of this has been the norm of the day for many, many years. And the report that the good leader is referring to refers to matters which occurred in the years 2019 and 2020. And as a result of those findings, the Marape government instituted reforms, partly funded by the ADB, and they were called the SOE reform program, starting in 2019, when the current governor of Western Britain was the minister responsible. And as a result of those reforms, we have gone back and restarted the process. And Mr. Speaker, I'm proud to be here, to be standing before you, to be able to say and confirm that all of our SOEs, their audits have been up to date up to 2021. And although some of them have been qualified, and these are work in progress. I can give you instances of companies like PNG Ports Corporation and MVIL and Dadaco, for the first time in the history of this country, have been able to receive unqualified audit reports from the Auditor General's office, which we should all be proud of. This is the start of many things to come. And all of our SOEs, their accounts are all up to date, up to 2021, and they have been fully audited. And the latest statements by the Auditor General's office to me says that apart from those three companies which I have mentioned, the others are mainly work in progress, but they are not that serious. As a result of those reform programs, those companies are actually performing now. I cannot comment on the other companies that the good Deputy Leader has referred to, because they are under other ministers, but in the SOEs which are under me, starting with Guinea, PNG Power, Telecom, Ports Corporation, the National Development Bank, MVIL, Dadaco, for instance, they have all been audited. And as I said earlier, their accounts are up to date, up to 2021. And we expect better results for this year when the Auditor General report, the Auditor General presents his report next year. As you all know, this year's reports will then be completed at the end of this year and presented next year. The same thing goes for the other years as well. So for each of those SOEs which are under me, under my ministry, all of them have been audited. And there are a number of companies whose performance have actually been criticized by the Auditor General. And in the case where the Auditor General has provided unqualified reports, I have made it my duty, and I've reached out to all the chairmen and CEOs, and I've actually provided them myself personally. I can say in the case of Guinea, I provided that Auditor General report to the chairman last week myself. And I highlighted to him the many areas of concern, and that was taken on board. And I can assure our people of this country that we are working very, very hard to make sure that all our SOEs meet the minimum audit requirements. And these are all part of the work in progress, and I can say that towards the end of next year, we should get better results for all the SOEs. They are companies like PNG Ports Corporation, who was able to declare a net operating profit after tax for the first time in its history of 104 million kina. For instance, MVIL for the first time declared a net operating profit after tax of 80.3 million kina. These are companies who have started the way, they have led the way, and we expect many others of our SOEs to follow. And we will begin to see good results. So, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I'd like to assure the good Deputy Leader of the Opposition that we have recognized that there are shortfalls, and this government has put a lot of time, resources, and money into making sure that our very important SOEs, most of them who enjoy monopolies, are able to actually ensure that their accounts are in order, they are properly audited, and that they meet the PNG auditing standards. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.